All right, welcome to another episode of EYEAM Mental Health Podcast. I'm Will Jenkins.
I'm Monte Newsom, and today we have a very, very special guest. We actually have our second female entrepreneur on the podcast today, Trashawna Herbert. How you doing today, Trashawna?
Blessed and highly favored. Thank you. How are you?
Doing good. You're doing good. We actually really excited to have you on today. As I said a moment ago, you are the second female that we have on the podcast. We've been trying to find female entrepreneurs like crazy. Like, we got to get a girl on there because they're going to keep thinking we doing all males. So we definitely excited to have you, and we're going to get right into it. So just tell us a little bit about where you from? Where are you from?
So I'm from DC. I was born and raised in Northwest. Yep, Washington, DC. So I've been here my entire life. Mm-hmm. So yep, I'm right here from the DMV.
And how was it growing up in the DMV?
A mix of things. For one, I can definitely say it's been traumatizing for a lot of my life. But it's also been very, very, very just pivotal in terms of getting me to where I am now. And I began with saying traumatizing because I know you guys are probably familiar with DC, was actually once known as the murder capital, right? So growing up, being around my family members and hearing them actually refer to our city as a murder capital alone was just like a little scary, as a young, child. But that really just to say DC hasn't, been the greatest experience, when it comes to the communities that I grew up in throughout my baby up into, I want to say maybe middle school years. I lived in Northwest. And then I moved to Southeast for about 2 years. Okay. And that whole experience was that's another story. But I would just say traumatizing because a lot of gun violence, drugs, in most cases, I had to, be the parent. I didn't mention I'm the oldest of 9 siblings. So I'm my mom and my dad's first child. But with that being said, I really just had to kind of put my big girl shoes on. At an early age while navigating, the violent things that are, were happening in the city. But to end on a good note, growing up in DC has definitely been pivotal, being the nation's capital and having access to so many different opportunities. I can say while I was in school, I was always a scholar. I was always someone who was seeking out new opportunities and trying to educate myself. So with that, I, was a teacher's pet. I say that proudly because they were like my parents, to be completely honest. They pushed me, beyond my limits and made sure, I stayed out of trouble and all that good stuff. So growing up in DC has definitely been the foundation for who I am today.
Right.
Okay.
So
talk a little bit about you being the oldest. I'm myself also the oldest of 4. So talk a little bit about you having to grow up at an early age. Was there anybody who you looked up to or anybody who you was okay, I see them doing this, so maybe I can, learn a little bit of game from them? Or did you just was trial and error? Was it one of those things?
It was really trial and error, honestly. My mom, she did a great job raising me. She was a young mom. She made her mistakes and things of that nature. But I would say for the most part, she raised me to know the basic, life skills that I needed to know. And then when it came a point in time where she was working all the time, I really had to kind of step in and cook dinner for my siblings, pick them up from school, sit down with them, do their homework with them. I would most cases have to be the one to go to support my little brother at his basketball games, because mom couldn't make it, and so forth and so on. And so who did I look up to? I would say, of course, I looked up to my mom because, she was in most of the time she was a single mom, raising me. But I would definitely say there were outside factors, like my teachers. I would say my teachers, like I said, they were my parents, because they gave me most of the expertise and the wisdom that I needed, at the time, not only in school, but because my mom was, always working and my dad wasn't really that present. I really just kind of had to figure it out.
Yeah. So what makes you a lot of people, especially of our kind, don't growing up as kids, we don't really attract to teachers? Like, what made you really want to speak to teachers or like stick around teachers, more so like call yourself a teacher's pet?
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say that because my teachers, they always like understood that my passion, for wanting more, for wanting to learn more, for wanting to do more. And, growing up in Section 8, growing up in that low income household, my mom, she finished high school, but she finished late. My dad never even finished middle school, so it was like, they knew my story and they treated me with like the utmost care. They always made sure, if I didn't have something at home, they could, provide support. And it was never like they needed to let it be known to my parents or to the school, what they were doing. And they would do things like that. And they would do things like put me in leadership positions, to lead the class. Just things like that, just really pushing me and help molding me, into a young woman. So I really clicked to them because I felt like they believed in me, if that makes sense.
100%. I definitely understand coming from Section 8 and all of that. I also grew up coming from Section 8 housing, so I definitely understand, but it's different, like hearing it out of a female mouth. Like, the only person I really ever heard talk about it, especially a woman, was my mom, of course, because that's who I was watching, you feel me, get us through everything. So like, with everything that you talked about, starting off the trauma, the gun violence, you just having to grow up at an early age, like, what would you say is your why? Like, what keeps you going every day? What keeps you motivated?
That's a great question. I would say not only is it my childhood and the things that I had to go through to grow up, I guess, fast. It really was just like this intrinsic desire. I honestly don't know where it came from. Honestly, I would really just give it all grace to God, because him seeing, this little girl in the situation, I could have honestly just fell victim to that entire environment. But I think it was just always something in me. I really can't really tell you what it was, but it was just something in me that knew I don't want this for me. I don't want this for my children. Hey, I don't even want this for my siblings or my parents, so I have to do something about it. And I really just think it's just something that's in you. It's just something that can't be explained. You know what I mean? And it sucks. It's like, okay, we're on a podcast, like give us some more. But to really answer that question, I would just say like, I wasn't comfortable. And I notice humans, when they're uncomfortable problem solvers anyway, they tend to find solutions, right? They tend to, get in this mode where it's like, I don't care what I need to do. I know I don't like this. I don't want this, and I don't deserve this. So I think knowing that really just kind of like pushed me to always just go after more.
No, I definitely love to hear that you on that grind and everything. Like, the fact that you was able to stay focused in that environment, a lot of us, like you said, definitely fall victim to that. So to hear, like you said, out of the female mouth, it's a little different. Definitely good to hear though. More so in school, speak about like your college experience. I know that you have a degree.
Yes. Bucknell. So a little background on Bucknell. Bucknell is a predominantly white institution, right? That's no secret. Right. I was not going to go to Bucknell. That's the cat's out the bag. Bucknell was not my first choice. Harvard was my first choice. And that's just because I had a lot of teachers who kind of seemed like the debater in me and the lawyer in me. And they was like, go to Harvard. And I just kind of think like, every smart little Black girl wants to go to Harvard to like prove a point, but Bucknell ended up being my choice of school because of the Posse Foundation. So the Posse Foundation had awarded me a full tuition scholarship for my academic achievements in high school. And they paid for my whole tuition. And I knew Bucknell was a liberal arts school. I knew it would kind of be a place where I can kind of get into politics and international affairs and really learn something, and be able to apply myself. It was a great experience, to say the least. I've been able to study abroad. I've been in various leadership positions in college. I sent Will my resume. He could probably told you a few. I was a part of the Black Student Union. I was a vice president. I was a part of the National Residence Hall Honorary. I was also a junior fellow, which is kind of similar to an RA, but just more so instituting academic, activities for the Residence Hall and things like that. I was also a sports writer for the Bucknellian newspaper. So it was a lot of different things I was really like dabbling into. I was a referee for the intramural sports league. And that was an on-campus job. So, being Black, and I always tell people, when they ask me about Bucknell, being Black at Bucknell is not easy. I think you really have to know yourself and, be strong and confident in who you are when you're navigating a space with so much privilege, and that's not where you come from. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it definitely was a challenge on my character. But I think I did a good job. I graduated on time. So that's a good thing. But I met so many great people at Bucknell. Bucknell opened my eyes to the real world. And I remember it was a debate amongst me, my teachers in high school, and even a few of my friends at the time, like, why aren't you going to a HBCU? Like, with all of your intellect, your skills and all that, why aren't you, building up the Black community and going to a HBCU? And for a long time, that kind of sat with me, going through Bucknell and experiencing a few identity issues and isolation and all that stuff. But I knew for a fact that I could do it. And I didn't just want to go to a HBCU because of the color of my skin. Same way I just didn't want to not go to Bucknell because of the color of my skin. You feel me? Right. So Bucknell was great. It taught me a lot. Like this podcast, like this episode would do no justice if I talked about my entire college experience. We'd be here for hours, but it was definitely eye-opening.
No, I definitely understand. I went to a PWI myself, so I already know how it is. And I'm definitely want to get into your study abroad, but just talk a little bit more about like how you really got to like know yourself and how like you being away from home at that PWI, because a lot of people, like, especially where we come from, don't get the opportunity to go to college. So they think it's kind of like all schoolwork, which schoolwork is a big part of it, but like you really like see a different part of yourself that you didn't know. Like damn, I'm really out here by myself. Like you really start figuring things out on your own. So just really talk about like some traits that you were able to discover while you were in college.
That's a great question. For one, I would say tenacity. And tenacity, not giving up on anything. And I noticed that even through my car issues, even through issues I had with frat boys issues. I never really had academic issues, but even when I failed a couple exams, it was tenacity, never giving up, keeping the end mind and goal, because I knew, and with my faith at the time also, I am a Christian. And with my faith, I knew God was always with me. There was nothing that I couldn't get done with him by my side. So I made sure to keep my faith at the forefront when I came across those obstacles and challenges, and just understanding nothing is impossible. Like I literally got tatted right here on my arm, Philippians 4:13, which I'm sure you guys know. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. But I really had to kind of, the times where it did get a little challenging, really just take a step back and self-evaluate, So I would journal, sing, play basketball, go to the gym, and stay around my friends, stay around the few color folks that were on campus and, were there to uplift and support me. So whether it be, hey, let's go out, get some frozen yogurt, or, let's go down to 7th Street Marketplace and just hang out. Let's go take some pictures, get cute, and really feel good about ourselves. Let's embrace our melanin and all that good stuff. So it was really just keeping the self-care, my self-care routine intact and not losing myself no matter what. So I say writing definitely played a big deal. Talking to my mentors and my professors on campus also played a big role in me just really just staying true to myself, because I'm not going to sit right here and lie and say there weren't instances where I would be influenced, by my colleagues and my counterparts, or I do something that I know I would have never done, or maybe against my morals or whatever the case may be. But I would say it was all a learning process, and having a whole documentation of times where I would journal, it really helped me measure and track my growth as well. Not only, academically, but emotionally too.
That's big to hear. Like, I never thought about journaling, like writing down and stuff like that, but I always try to remember things in my head and play them back and forth and think about how it can make me who I am now. But speak some more about you mentioned isolation at Bucknell. How was that? Did you ever have those times where you may have went to any mental episodes, or you just didn't feel like you were yourself out there all the way out in Bucknell?
Yes, there were a lot of times when that happened. And thank God that I had a car in my sophomore year, because I just go in my car and cry. I literally would just go to my car and cry when I felt like nobody could understand. Of course, like I said, I go to the gym, but isolation, getting into a little bit that more. When you navigate in a place like Bucknell and mostly everybody there, their parents are making like 100 or something thousand more a year. Right. And you seeing Audis, you seeing Teslas, you seeing Mercedes Benz. I had a Mercedes Benz too, but you seeing Mercedes Benz and all this stuff, Gucci, all this stuff, you know, you can kind of feel a little down to yourself, like, dang, I need to step my game up, or like, I'm not doing enough. And in terms of like the social atmosphere, like, I just didn't feel understood. I came from a whole completely different background. I know these people, most of them anyway, couldn't relate to, you know, going a night without a meal, or couldn't relate to not getting the shoes you wanted, you know, for back to school, and couldn't relate to getting bullied, you know, in school because of the things, you know, that you would wear, you know. So I felt like I was just really out of touch with most of the people there. And at times I, you know, would isolate myself. I wouldn't go to certain events. I wouldn't go to certain career fairs because I will have this preconceived notion in my head, well, they don't understand me, so there's no way they'll be able to accept me. But in a lot of instances, I was wrong. A lot of people were willing to accept me. I just had to be willing to take that step, you know, and get out of my comfort zone. But yeah, isolation for a long time. I would just literally just stick to myself and my two little friends. Like, I would not try new things. And this was probably, I want to say, early in my sophomore year. I was just really isolated, and I just felt like I'm ready to graduate. After going through my freshman year, I was just like, I'm ready to get it over with. But I really think that all just goes to say isolation is a choice. Like, nobody else was responsible for the reason why I felt like I needed to be in my dorm room all the time, or I felt like I couldn't go to a white party, or whatever the case may be. You know what I mean? So it definitely served me in terms of me being able to self-evaluate and have that alone time. But it did me a true disservice when it came to actually breaking the barriers that I'm passionate about breaking, you know, and actually making that first step. So, yeah.
I'm glad you touched on that too, because a lot of people definitely do experience like different isolation and stuff, especially in college. Like, I know I did for sure, but like, I'm glad you said like it's not always good, even though that's our natural instinct, especially where we come from. Like, all right, I'm gonna do this on my own. Like, I'm good by myself. Like, I'm straight. I'm good. I got it. Stuff like that. But when you do take that time to like isolate, yes, it's good to like regroup and get yourself back together to make sure that you at your full 100%. But at the same time, you could easily be like using that time to get other goals, reach other goals that you're trying to obtain, stuff like that. So that's just I'm glad that you said both sides of it, like the isolation and stuff like that. But talk a little bit about you going to study abroad. Where'd you go? What did you go to study for? And how was the experience?
So I went to France. I was in a little city called Tours. It's like in the center, right in the center, like 2 hours from Paris. I went to study the language as well as the culture and the gastronomy, which is the food. It was great. I wish I could go back. And every time I talk about it, I'm like, it was a lot better than being on campus, that I can say, even though that in itself was still a huge culture shock and transition for me as well, with living with the host family, you know, who was predominantly white. And that's just to say, you know, just to give you some background, not that it, you know, really mattered, but it really did push me out my comfort zone, and they supported me in every way. And I can say both of my host families really made my experience enjoyable. I mean, the food was amazing. The culture, debatable, but the education was definitely top tier. When I was there, I took a gastronomy course. So it's actually like a restaurant school where people there, French students there, would go and get their certification, you know, to cook and work in restaurants. So our school partnered up with the restaurants to kind of give us that experience. And we go there every single Friday. We cook meals, we prepare them ourselves, of course, with the professional chef, you know, to guide us. But we literally cook meals, French meals. We learn about the history. The pastoire is what we would call like the land and all that stuff that goes behind it. And it was incredible. Like, I'm just still at a loss for words thinking about the experience, you know, like a DC girl. Never ever would I imagine myself living in an entire different country for an entire year. But while I was there, I was really learning the language was the most difficult thing, honestly, because it's like they speak really fast.
Right.
And it's like, if you don't really know the basics,
it's slow.
Yeah. So it's like, if you don't really know, the basics, it's going to be really hard to catch up. So I just spent a lot of time studying my first semester anyway, because I did stay 2 semesters, which made a whole year. So my first semester, I was just really locked into my books, my academics, and going back and forth to school. I was at 2 universities. The first was the Institut de Touraine, and then the second one was Université de Tours, which is the city university. And both of them were great. Professors were great most of the time. But what I did notice about the French education system and the American education system is that they are a lot further behind than we are when it comes to different levels of curriculum and where our students are versus their students. Mm-hmm. And the different certifications and bachelors and all that stuff is just completely different. So it was really cool to make that distinction and make connections between our system, their system. I mean, all the way down to like cultural cues, like basic courtesy on the bus. You know what I mean? All of that stuff was great to really take note. Yeah, all of that stuff was really great.
Space.
Yes, exactly. All of that was really great to take note of. And I would say my favorite thing about being in France was the freedom. I felt more free than I ever have felt on campus. And even though I was alone majority of the time, still kind of on that isolation tip, it was never like a depressive type of state, how it was at Bucknell. It was like, I'm getting up. I don't know where I'm going today. I'm getting on the tram and I'm going to just get off at whatever stop and just go shop, go eat, talk to some people, challenge myself. So it was a great experience. My second semester around, I did do a little more partying. So I was up in the bars, in the clubs and all that.
Got to. You got to get the full experience.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yes, I definitely had a great experience in the bars and in the clubs, met a lot of great people, students from all around the world. I even met this one girl. She was so sweet. She was from Madagascar. And we would go out, take little dates. And it was just really cool to have like an entire support system in an entire different country. And even to this day, I still, keep in contact with my host family and, friends that are over there. So it's like, whenever I do go back, I have somewhere where I can be comfortable, and I can be supported. So it still blows my mind to this day, because it's just like,
that's definitely
it's crazy.
That's very awesome. That's tough.
What made you feel like that you felt more free all the way in a different country, like out in France versus the US, and they look at us as like the land of the free?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. I felt more free socially. I felt like these people don't know me versus Bucknell. These people see me every single day. They have their preconceived notions about me being a posse scholar, me being poor or whatever the case may be. Versus when you're in a new country, nobody knows you. Like nobody knows you except for the people you came with. So it's just like, they're just looking at me like another colored pretty girl walking down the street. And it's just like, there's no preconceived notions of who I am. And so just knowing that subconsciously helps me move more freely and, just more at ease, when I'm going through my day-to-day activities, just like at the university. Like I said, it was a culture shock, just because everybody's speaking French. And it's just like, you got to transition quick, with my little basic French that I had when I first got there. I'm at a much advanced level now. But of course, like I said, that took grind. But I would just say, like, I just felt more free to be me because, like, I'm in a new space. Nobody knows me. Like, they don't even know where I'm from, and it just felt like, okay, I got a fresh start.
Was it like the place you were in France, was it more like poverty driven, or were they more like upscale?
Great question. So, we did visit a few places, but where I was living, I would say it's more so of like a middle income, middle class type of town. It still has, so what I noticed about Europe is that they still take hold and care of a lot of their old architecture. So you'll see a lot of the architectures from like 1800s, 1900s, and the buildings are like really vintage Roman looking, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And so you'll see, like, even with the university, they don't really give that much care to their infrastructure like we do in America. Like, we're probably the most globalized, like modernized, industrialized society. But over there in France, they really do take heed to their pastoral, like I said, their land. So trying to preserve that, trying to keep the fossil fuels away, you know. So it's kind of like that old vibe, but they still kind of have modern things, and you can tell they kind of been influenced by the new world. You know, they have McDonald's, H&M, Zara, you know, a few new buildings, but you can tell that
they definitely in tuned a little bit. But it's like you said, they got like it's real traditional, I would say. Like,
yes.
Yeah, I'm actually going to France this summer. I'm actually going to visit this summer, so I'm looking forward to it.
Dope.
Bro,
You're gonna have a great time.
Out here in Luxembourg right now, it's like right by Paris and Germany right now. So I'm definitely like everything you're saying. I'm thinking like that. I do this like every day right now, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, definitely. Let me ask you this: like being a Black girl, coming up, you said you was almost got accepted. Well, did you get accepted into Harvard? You said.
I had got an interview for Harvard, but I could not go forward through it because I had early decision with Bucknell. So I don't know if I got accepted or not. Hopefully I will have.
Gotcha. We just want to say you did, but so you know how it is when like some people might like give you a little side eye, or they might think that should have been them. So just talk a little bit about the hospitality being out the country over there in France versus like, do you think you got the same amount of love back home as you did over there, or like talk a little bit about that?
I would say in terms of the love, definitely more back home, because of course my family members are here, my parents are here, my siblings are here. So yeah, the love definitely back home. And trust me, there were days when I was abroad and I was missing that love. I was missing that care, you know, from my family. So definitely more care, more love and support back home. But in France, I would say more challenges in a good way that I was looking forward to. And of course, it was still love. I still had support and love from my professors. My whole family did the best that they could to make me comfortable, and I still commend them to this day for that. Right. But yeah, I would definitely say back home, to answer your question just bluntly, back home, I felt more secure, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. Gotcha. You seem like you very like outgoing. You always up to the task. Like, it's our first time really chopping it up, getting to know each other and stuff. And it really seemed like you are definitely like motivated to do everything. Like, it's nothing, you feel me, you can't do. And I know like my mom, she the same way. Like, if you put a task in front of her, she gonna get it done no matter what. And that's really the vibe I'm getting right now. So like, just talk about, do you have any regrets in life? Like anything that you ever regret doing, anything you would take back? Like, if you had to do it all over again, would you do it all over again? The same exact way?
Ooh.
And if
not, I would change something. I know a lot of people say, oh no, I wouldn't do anything. Yes, you would. You would. No, but for me, I would have listened to my mom when she said, focus on you, don't worry about the boys. I can honestly say men, and I know now with just going through that self-reflection, going through that time in France and just going through college and, you know, not having the relationship with my dad be where it is, I understood that was a big factor in the relationships that I had with other men. And that had played on my emotions for a very long time, and honestly still to this day. But I think it's a lot easier to process it now. But I would say definitely listening to my mom when she's taking her advice about her experience with men, so that I could have kind of had it a little easier emotionally and just focused a little more in on my studies, or maybe something else. That energy could have just been directed at something else. I don't care what it was. I would have definitely did that differently, not been in a relationship in middle school, high school, even college. I probably wouldn't have been in a relationship. So yeah, that definitely, I would have changed that.
Yeah, I feel you, but I mean, you gotta look at those as like learning experiences.
Learning lessons, right? Definitely.
Nah, but sometimes it might be like, I could have went without that. Like, all right, that relationship.
Yeah,
and I might could have skipped that relationship. That was
Yeah, that's the point. And Will, I agree with you. Like, I agree with you. That definitely made me who I am today. Like, I began saying everything I've been through has definitely molded me into the woman I am today. So I probably would have been someone different, but I can say Monte said, I could have probably went without it. It wasn't going to make or break me at the time, being a young woman.
Right. So as a woman, like going from like as a teenager to a woman, when did you really start noticing like that, like the reason that you didn't have that father figure in the household as much affect your relationship dealing with like other men?
Yeah. I noticed it as early as high school. And it was because of my interactions and my codependence on the relationship. I would be really insecure. Always wondering, what is he doing? Like, is he going to leave me? Like, is this stable? So I will always kind of like be on like the sideline with the relationship. I would never actually be all in, right? And how do you even be all in a relationship at high school anyway? But I wouldn't like be fully devoted because I didn't really have that full devotion from my dad, if that makes sense. So it was like, I was kind of always playing the defense. I was always skeptical. And a lot of people nowadays, they call it abandonment issues. I mean, if that's what you want to call it, we can call it that. But I say I noticed it just by how like I was interacting with men, and I really didn't like it, because even though I did bring a lot to the relationship, right? I was smart, a lot of skills, supportive, and all that good stuff. Emotionally, it was still draining. And I knew that wasn't the type of impact that I would have wanted, to have on a young man, but it did. And even to this day, I know I'm responsible for a few heartbreaks. It's going to be all right, but it was all a learning experience, And now I know, my relationship with my dad played a big role in it, and they know too. So they give me a little more grace now too.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
All right, talk about Melange Express Catering. How is that? Like, what is that, etc.?
Okay, got you. So Melange Express is a catering services that my best friend and I at the time had started. And Melange is mix for French, so it means mix in French. And express just means like, express delivery, express services, like quick, on the go. So it really just started as an idea. We always cook for our residence halls. I mean, that was like one thing we're really known for, making really, really good food. And people would just be coming lunching, after, the game, after the frat parties, and they like, all right, Trey and like cooking, let's go eat. And so we realized, like, we're not getting paid for this. We love y'all, but we got bills. We struggling.
Right.
Like, we felt like, our skill, could be compensated. So we was like, hey, let's start selling plates. And really, Melange kind of was my idea because of I was taking French classes at the time. So this did start in my sophomore year. So this was before I had went to France. I went to France my entire junior year. Mm-hmm. But it was during my sophomore year. I was taking French classes, trying to be savvy, trying to find a way, to show, my expertise and my growth. And that's kind of how the name came about. Like, we're going to mix all these different creations. Because if you ask, anyone on campus, all of our recipes are like different. They're really different. And we use, things that people had never eaten before, tasted before, recipes that weren't like really traditional recipes. So people would love it. And we really just mix what we had and we make a good meal, and it was on the go. It was quick. It really didn't take us a long time to make it. And so people would just, come and get it whenever they were hungry. But Melange Express, it went on for so throughout our second semester of our sophomore year into the summertime. So people had started, they loved the food so much. They was like, when y'all gonna be cooking again? Mm-hmm. Throughout the whole summer. So we just started doing deliveries during the summertime, cooking and all that good stuff. It was a great experience. It was actually my first entrepreneurial endeavor, being a college student. And it was really great. Also a great way to connect with my colleagues too, because everybody loves to eat. And even if, we came from different backgrounds or whatever the case may be, I noticed that was something that brought us together. So Melange Express was great. It was a great idea. I actually still have plans for it that are on hold, for X, Y, and Z. But it was my first baby. So yeah, it was a great experience.
Now, you answered my question. I definitely was going to ask you, is it still going on? Like, can I get a meal? Like, you feel me?
What's the most recommended dish? What's your most recommended dish? Like you said, it's different dishes.
Yeah, so there are a bunch of different dishes. My most recommended dish will have to be the street tacos. People really, really love when I make tacos. I don't know why. They just really love the tacos. My fried chicken is really good as well because I have a secret ingredient that I can't tell y'all about.
I was just ready to ask. I was
I
about to say,
can't
can you
tell
tell
y'all
us what's
about
in
it.
it?
Yeah,
But
I
I learned it from my grandma. But yeah, I would definitely say it's probably the fried chicken, the mac and cheese also, and the tacos.
Okay. And if I'm correct, you have another business as well, the Lab Pro Fit Club. Did you start
Yes.
that? When did that come about?
So I started that January of 2022. So this year.
Okay.
And that kind of really came about because I've always kind of been like an athletic person in the gym, in the lab. And I've always kind of referred to the gym as the lab,
Right.
you know, because when you're in a lab, you're working on something. And obviously when you're in the gym, you're working on your body. And so that's kind of like always been my approach in helping me go to the gym. But it really just started in because I noticed there were people around me who needed accountability, including myself, when it came to working out, prioritizing, you know, my health and being consistent with it. So I felt like, why not create a community, a Zoom community, online fitness community where people can actually tap in every day and take accountability, just as if, you know, we take accountability to get up and brush our teeth, right? We don't forget that, right? And wash our face, right? Why not take accountability and actually get our heart rate going? So that was something that I felt would not only help a lot of people who needed accountability around me, but help me myself be a little more consistent with my workout routine. Because there are fitness goals that I have, you know, and things of that nature. But that's pretty much how it really came about. I really looked at it as an opportunity to serve and build a community. So yeah, that was pretty much the basis for it.
Okay. And real quick, lastly, talk about the Boss Ladies Mob. What is that and how did that come about?
Yes, so the Boss Ladies Mob, MOB stands for Masters of Business, actually is a women's empowerment group, and we are dedicated to empowering, enriching, and educating all women in business, helping them develop a business mindset and helping them understand how to invest. So I met these young ladies through the EYEAM Mastery Academy, which is an online platform that teaches people how to trade and invest as well. And we were all in the academy together, learning the basics. And we just kind of came together and said, you know, outside of the academy, how can we come together and make the academy like a fun place, you know, because most people don't want to learn. They don't want to sit down, watch the videos, go on and go live videos and trade. You know, they want a community. They want to be up close and in person. And so the Boss Ladies Mob was kind of this idea that came about, with me to attract prospects to the business and onto the EYEAM Mastery Academy platform. That way they can learn all the things that we're learning and also have a community to learn with, if that makes sense. And so from that, we were really just able to branch off. We did a few Boss Lady brunches. We did a mob pop-up shop where we had entrepreneurs come out and actually sell their products, right? So we wanted to uplift them, help them build, you know, their businesses, and, you know, just showing them like, we're not really just here to recruit you. We want to show you like, we're really here to teach you, you know, like investing gems, like business gems to help you, you know, excel in whatever it is that you want to do. So we knew it was always kind of bigger than the academy. And we just started creating events and stuff like that to, you know, bridge a community and just eliminate this idea that women have to compete, because we're stronger together and we're weaker apart. And so we really just trying to, you know, destigmatize that and really bring women together on some real woman empowerment and not on some fake girl power stuff.
No, love that for sure. All right, before we get you out of here, right now, 1 through 10, where's your mental state at?
My mental state is at a solid 7, and I can say that honestly. Now, it took me a while to get here, and I'm still working. Some days is at a 5 again, and some days I'm just like, what am I even doing? But I think right now I'm at a solid 7, and just understanding that God is the director, I'm the actor. So whatever role that he tells me to play, I gotta play it, even if it's something insane and I feel like I can't do it. I still gotta do it how God told me to do it, so it can come out how he showed me.
Right.
I like that right there. Say that one more time.
Stop. I said God is the director, We're the actors. Whatever role he gives you to play, play it. Don't ask no questions. Don't complain. Even if it's something you feel like you can accomplish, it's just completely insane and out of this world. Do it anyway so that it can come out how God showed you. Do it how God told you so it can come out how he showed you.
Nah, I like that. That's hard.
I like that. Yeah, that was hard for sure.
Talk a little bit about like where do you get like your business mindset from? Like how did you transfer over to like I think I can be an entrepreneur, like taking everything above and beyond, like with all the businesses you have, like from catering to your investing business, and then talk a little bit about how females and males, like how they compared in the business world. Do you think females have an advantage because of looks sometimes? Do you think females have a disadvantage because, you feel me, they kind of be looked over? Like, talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So to answer your first question, I would say my business mindset definitely was influenced a lot by my grandfather, who was also a business owner. He has his own auto repair shop, and just looking up to him and learning from him has just been a great experience. And he's also a pastor. So have his faith with his business is just really brought him a lot of success and shown me what's possible for myself as well. So really using him as a mentor and as, you know, a parental figure has helped shifted my mindset incredibly. And from the smallest thing to like being intentional, you know, about how it is I go about my business. You know what I mean? So I would definitely say my granddad has been a big, huge influence and factor in transitioning my mindset and showing me what's possible in the business world. Now, in terms of the second question, I definitely think the female to male dynamic in the business world, it needs a lot of work. It needs a lot of work. I kind of feel like it's just like the ladies against the males. Right. And it's just like we're supposed to be working together. And if we're supposed to be doing it God's way, the men are, you know, you guys are actually supposed to have authority and we're supposed to be your helpers. So we are actually not saying that we don't have a purpose or can't chase our own goals, but we're really supposed to be, you know, assistants in a way. We're supposed to help propel you guys. And of course it's,
I said like a supporting cast.
Yes, exactly. It's supposed to be a two-way street, but literally straight biblical. The woman is literally supposed to just help assist the man in whatever it is that he needs done. But we've gone so far away from God's way. We know that. But I would just say, like, it just feels like it's he versus she all day long. Even on social media, it's always women pointing the finger at men and men pointing the finger at women. When really, we all need to take accountability for our flaws and, you know, our mistakes that we have, you know, when it comes to business or even just life. And the second question you said, do I think women have it easier? I wouldn't say that we have it easier, and I wouldn't necessarily say that we have it harder, because I truly believe that your experience is going to be based on how you perceive it. The world, not only the world, but yourself. So if you feel inferior to a man, you are. And as a man, if you feel inferior to women, you are. So I feel like it's just understanding who you are and where you fit, you know, and just understanding your worth and adding tax and not letting nobody else tell you, you know, what you're worth. I definitely believe in pretty privilege, and, you know, looks can take you a long way, and that's on both ends of the spectrum, both male and female. And I've been, you know, a witness to that. My looks have definitely got me a long way. But I've also been witness to a male, you know, whose looks have gotten him a long way. So with that being said, I feel like it's a two-way street. It can go both ways. I feel like it depends on how you look at it. We know people have their different perspectives based on where they are. And a lot of people just tend to blame everybody else, society, you know, the structure of our government. And I'm not saying those things don't have an impact, but what I'm saying is causation is in correlation. So just because, I don't know, my beauty may have caused me to land a job doesn't mean that it's going to help me keep the job.
For sure. Most definitely.
So what made you notice or like really take a more self accountability than the average person would? Because like you said, a lot of us like don't nobody want, like everybody pointing the finger, but they never looking at themselves really.
Especially being a female, like did you feel like you had to like grind even harder. Like I gotta really stand out. And I'm only asking this because, like I said, you're only the second female we had, but like we want to have as many females as we can come on. Like you said, I love the fact that you said men and women should work together. Like especially, you feel me, the business world, not the business world. Like if you see a female who especially come from where we come from, like help her out. It don't matter what she look like. If she trying to do the right thing and on the right path, help her right. And the same thing with men as well. Like don't, you feel me, necessarily. I know men are looked at as the providers, but it's also a stage in the middle where like it's a grinding stage. So sometimes we need, you feel me, y'all to be supportive. And I know women need that support system as well. So just go ahead and speak on that a little bit.
Yes, absolutely. I would just say in terms of helping me take more accountability, it was really just getting closer to the word of God, and God is the forefront of my life. So I'm gonna just keep mentioning him because without him, I'm literally nothing, like literally nothing. And so just really getting more into the Bible. And this is actually the first year that I'm actually reading the Bible from front to end. I usually just, skip through a couple, chapters and a couple books, based on, church or whatever the case may be. But I was like, you know what, I really want to get this thing for myself and see where I kind of fall with it. And I feel like the Bible is literally the cheat code to life. Like the Bible, anything you want to know in the world, just Google, what does the Bible say about this? And I promise you, there is a Bible verse, and with wisdom and understanding, you'll be able to apply it. And so I think it was Proverbs. Proverbs gets a lot into how we should be, the character that we should have, how we should, treat our parents, our children. And I noticed one of, even, God says to honor your parents, right? So that you may live long in the land. Even that, like with me feeling like, my dad wasn't, as present, or feeling like my mom could have done X, Y, and Z. And it's just like, hey, what are you doing as their child, like to lift them up, or, what are you doing to give them grace? Have you forgiven them? So it's just like really getting into the Bible, getting into the word, and really just having revelations and convictions. Like, I don't want to be like this. Like, I want to please God. Like, and I want to be someone, who builds up his kingdom. So it really was just getting closer to the word of God, praying and seeking confirmation, seeking guidance and wisdom. And God showed me. And it's like, I can't, like, once you are trained up in the Lord, and like, I guess once you have the Holy Spirit inside of you, like it's there. So it's just like, when you move, it's going to move with you. And so taking accountability is just kind of like the Holy Spirit in me, like, nah, like if I did something wrong, I got to go apologize. You know what I'm saying? If I lied about something, I got to go back and tell the truth, because it's just that conviction, that it sits in you. You know what I mean?
And I feel like that comes, like, it go hand to hand with like being real with yourself, being honest with yourself. Like a lot,
Yes.
Especially in this generation, people look at social media, and you might post something on social media and a lot of people get off, and it's the complete opposite of what they're doing. Or even if it's not social media, like I always think of stuff like, you never know what people doing behind closed doors. Like just because this person a pastor don't mean he going home and, you feel me, practicing what he preach and stuff like that. So you being real with yourself and taking accountability, I feel like that's definitely like a big part of your character and who you really are, what you're doing when nobody looking, what you willing to, how much struggle you willing to endure, how far you finna take this to get the level of success you really want to reach. So I'm definitely glad you touched on that. I do got one more question for you though. Okay. Just not even a question, just drop a gem for the young ladies out there, more specifically the young African American female that's coming up, that, you feel me, that young Black girl that's out there, she gonna watch this podcast and she about to get accepted to 2 different schools. She going through boy troubles. Her and her dad not really see eye to eye all the time, and just give her that advice. Give her some advice.
Well, if you're watching, young beautiful Black girl going through all those things, you are not alone. Okay, I want you to know that. For one, you are not alone. Never feel like you have to keep things to yourself, keep things bottled up. Never feel like you have to isolate yourself, because that is a choice. I would say always just stay true to who you are. And I know, as cliche as it sounds, it's literally as simple as that. Don't do anything that you're going to regret tomorrow. And even if you do, give yourself grace enough to not make the same mistake again. And on top of that, keep your crown high. Don't never tilt your head down. Don't never let your crown fall. And you don't have to let everybody know what you're going through. Now, when I say seek help, seek someone that who is going to listen and you know, who isn't going to judge you.
Yeah.
But keep going after everything that you want. Never ever give up. Be tenacious, be relentless, and know that you could do anything through Christ who strengthens you.
Yes, man. That was good.
Yes, man.
Let the people know
Real
what
fast. I know I keep saying that's it. No, this is gonna be a good one for sure. Real fast. What would you tell 13-year-old Trashawna? What advice would you give to her looking back?
Girl, relax.
Mm-hmm.
Relax. Life is not that serious, I promise you, and you have time. That's what I would tell 13-year-old Trashawna. You have time. Slow down. Figure out who you are, what it is. Figure out who you are, what it is that you want, you know, set boundaries, of course, but relax, slow down. You don't have to be on every scene. You don't have to try to rush your life either, because adulthood is definitely in the way. But yeah, with that being said, really just to slow down and enjoy being a kid.
Yeah. Facts, because we definitely all wanted to grow up. So you really grown up. Old up.
Yep.
My people was right. Yeah. What? My peoples was right.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Let everybody, let the people know where they can find you, all type of Instagram, YouTube, whatever, like any handles you want to give out, go ahead, drop them.
Definitely. Well, there's a list of them. My main Instagram is xoxo.trey. That is xoxo.trey. My fitness club is at the Lab Pro Fit Club. My LinkedIn is Trashawna Herbert, so just my name. My Facebook is also Trashawna Herbert. And my YouTube, where you guys can check out the Boss Ladies Mob content, is Boss Ladies Mob Masters of Business. And that's all I got.
Okay, and all of those definitely gonna be below right here. Y'all gonna see them and in the description. We appreciate you, Trashawna, for coming on here for sure. Or here at EYEAM Podcast, one of the biggest things I like to do is, you feel me, give people their flowers while they're here. So we definitely appreciate you, especially being a woman, a young female coming on here and just giving all your knowledge, giving all your free game to the other ladies and even fellas. Y'all need to be tapping into this too. And anything that you need from us, you got our corporate support 100%. Hopefully we can see a good collab between your brand and our brand in the future, even if we just do a pop-up shop, a giveaway, anything like that. Anything we can do to support on our end, you got our support 100%. We love what you're doing. Keep it up, and we hope everything goes great for you this year.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you guys for having me. You guys,
we gotta get you on here again at the end of the year and see, you feel me, the progress at the end of the year.
Let's do it.
You know.